So recently, we had to move from our old shop to a new shop space in the same building. And I was trying to think what would be a good first build in the new space. After sitting on it for a while, it finally hit me. They're doing a lot of construction on the building where our shop's located, so naturally, I headed to the dumpster to do some good old-fashioned dumpster diving. I ended up pulling out a long, worn piece of wood that just had a great weathered look to it. A quick backstory. A bunch of us helped Jimmy and Taylor put up a teepee at Jimmy's farmhouse, and Brent Bousquet took this great photo that's been hanging up on the shop wall without a frame. Until now. So the first thing I had to do was measure the size of the photograph. Luckily it was square, so making repeat cuts was easy. And always remember to watch your fingers. So yeah, this is the space our old shop used to be. Scary, huh? So the first thing I did was to make a template and mark out where all the cuts were going to be, and then cut the piece down to a more manageable size. Did I mention this room's a little scary? Now that I just put the template down and marked where every 45-degree angle needs to be cut, I'm going to go back to my shop and use my router to rabbet the entire edge of the piece of wood. So once I cut it in a 45-degree angle, all the pieces will line up and the picture will actually sit recessed in the wood. Now let's go cut that before I get murdered in this weird room.
I can't breathe in this thing!
Oh, that feels better. Whew. So now I have my router and a 1/4-inch rabbet bit in it. And if you couldn't hear me with the mask on, I'm going to run the rabbet bit on the inside of where the picture is going to be. So once I cut all the angles at 45 degrees and match everything up, I'll put the picture on and then I'll put a piece of plexi on there and hopefully everything will sit flush against the picture frame. Let's give it a shot. Next I clamped down the piece of wood to my work table and slowly ran the router down the length of one edge. Pro tip, always use eye protection and a respirator if you pull wood from the trash that's old and moldy. Now that the rabbet's finished, we're going to go back to the miter saw and cut all the 45-degree angles on the frame. Let's go. Now we're back at the miter saw, let's do some cutting. The next step was to follow the marks I drew with the template and cut each piece at 45 degrees. Seeing that we just moved all the tools into this space, it was time to try to find the staple gun.
I believe you have my stapler.
After a couple minutes of searching, I finally found it. So let's glue it together and use a couple staples for reinforcement and see how it turns out. Here I'm pointing at marks I made on the backside of the frame, so I'll know how to put it back together once I glue and staple it. I used a hammer to hit the staples down nice and flush on the back side of the frame. And finally I lay some heavy weights on the frame so that all the pieces will be nice and flat when the glue dries. Now we just have to wait for the glue to dry, so we'll come back tomorrow and see how it came out. It's a new shop, I don't know where the door is, it's this way. Since I have to wait 24 hours to let the glue dry, I decided to shoot this beautiful sunrise over the shop the following morning. I mentioned that I shot this, right? So after I totally shot that footage, I went to the store and picked up some plexiglass for the frame.
Impressive.
Alright, just got this plexiglass, so now it's time to measure and cut on the table saw. And after that, we'll put everything together and see how it fits. Now that the plexiglass is cut, I do a fitting just to make sure everything fits properly. Looks good to me. Next up is to grab the glue gun and glue the plexiglass inside the rabbet. Just make sure you have glue loaded in the gun. Here I just use a little glue around the entire piece of the plexiglass, just to make sure it doesn't fall out in the future. After that, I use some glass cleaner and clean both sides of the plexiglass. I do a final test fitting with the picture just to make sure everything is good to go, and then I cut a piece of cardboard and glued that to the back side of the frame just to protect the picture from shop dust. I next grab some frame wire and cut it to length. I then use my staple gun to staple it securely to the wood on the back of the frame. Pro tip, just make sure you have enough staples when you're in the middle of a project so you don't run out. Like some people. Finally, I use my hammer to hit the staples flat, and we're done. So there you have it, a nice rustic reclaimed picture frame. Say that 3 times fast.
Rustic reclaimed picture frame. Rustic reclaimed picture frame. Rustic reclaimed picture frame.
Let's go hang it on the wall and see how it looks. So here it is, the reclaimed rustic picture frame. I really love the way that this came out. It has a fantastic weathered look. I pulled this from the dumpster, but I have no idea where this wood came from. So I'd like to thank whoever left this wood out in the rain for a while. It made for a fantastic frame. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the little bell notification every time you want to get notified. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, @grazmakes. And one more thing, I set up a Patreon account. If you want to support me, all the information's down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.